We are. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, it's Monday, and what a wild and wacky weekend we had, my friend. Both on the college side as well as the pro side, and then, of course, Major League Baseball. So that leaves us with Elimination Monday, a Monday night football game, and an opportunity to reflect on the weekend. How was your weekend, my friend?
Yeah, it was all right. Didn't have a great Saturday, but had a great Sunday. So break
Made
even
up.
just about.
Made up for it. There you go. Well, uh, wacky stuff today. Fox has their college football top 10, as does CBS, and neither of them are Georgia. But here's where things get really kind of wacky. CBS has Michigan number one. Fox has Ohio State number one. Now, my theory of the case is that both of them air Big Ten football. I wonder why they're. By the way, on CBS, the closest that Washington is, who is our team's number one, you and I, is sixth. There are six teams better than Washington in the accordance of Fox and CBS. I say that is absolute hogwash. It cannot be.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that that's what the networks have. I mean, it was almost like the networks ref those games on Saturday because, yeah, it's very obvious we're gonna get a vanilla college football playoffs, and guess what? You're gonna get your Georgia, your Michigan, your Ohio State in the top four, and none of them are probably the top four team in the country.
Well, and look, God knows I have spent a lot of time in Tallahassee doing Florida State football games. Coach Bowden was someone who I loved as a person and was proud to consider a friend. So I'm not hating on FSU, but they keep showing up number three, number four. I just, I mean, no respect to either, uh, you know, Oregon, or Washington, or any of the teams that are out there. It just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, definitely. It's this year's a wash for college football because there's a good number of teams that could be competing for the national championship, and we're probably not going to see any of them because it's going to be the same four. It's going to be the same four teams as last year minus TCU.
Right. The somebody will fall into that category. They'll allow them in. And I got to say this. We talked about it. Good on Utah. Utah went into the Coliseum and handled SC.
Yeah, Caleb Williams just that draft stock is plummeting. Then you mentioned the news of him wanting a stake in
The
ownership
ownership and
of.
yeah,
Ooh,
the
I
owner.
smell a Josh Rosen coming on, Jim.
It's a mess. It is an absolute and total mess. And you know what I gotta say? I mean,
These California cornerbacks.
these California quarterbacks. Yeah, I gotta say that I'm just you know total props to Utah. I mean, that was not an easy situation. They were coming in. They decided they banked on the quarterback that was the guy who had. We talked about Johnson, the kid who is the freshman quarterback who wasn't. They didn't have the style of athletes to play his game, and they decided, okay, we're going to go back to our guy who is more like Caleb. I'm not Caleb now. I got me doing it. Cam Rising, and that's what they did. And this kid, balled out and put him in a good position there. So that's good. Now, the Florida State Duke game was weird because Duke hung with Florida State, and then Florida State outscored them 31-3 in the final 20 minutes of the game. So
Yeah, I think the score is a little
deceiving there.
Yeah, Duke was right in that game. Duke probably should have won that game. Again, another
Mm-hmm.
game with these questionable calls because
Mm-hmm.
we got to help Florida State get into the college football playoffs. So
Right.
that's all it was this weekend. It was the networks deciding the questionable calls of who they want in for the playoff. But
Right.
yeah, it was very disappointing to see all around in college football. I was on Iowa and
Mm-hmm.
they had that last punt return that was
Right.
called back for the dumbest fair catch signal I have ever
Mm-hmm.
seen. That was not a fair catch signal, and
No.
I'm pretty sure you can ask anybody. That is a clear like, hey, get away from the ball. I might go grab it.
Right. Leave it alone. No, it was wild. And then yesterday we saw the official quarterback of our show lead his team down for a score and left 42 seconds on the clock, and somehow some way, you know, Atlanta figured out how to go, 50 yards to get to field goal range and won the game on a field goal. So that was weird. There was a questionable pass interference called in that situation, and you're waiting. The ball, I was of the mind that if the ball was, uncatchable, then you don't make the call. But evidently, that isn't the way that the officials see it these days. That just because the the pass interference was called 10 yards from where it took place, and the ball was 20 feet over the guy's head. So I don't get that. I mean, it is what it is. But yesterday, and I think another thing we found out was that there really isn't at this point in time. There's good teams, but there's not a dominant team in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was going back to what I said about how you have to put these teams kind of in a tier system
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, there's no clear cut 1, 2, 3 like that.
Right.
That would be disrespectful because a lot of the thing about the NFL is a matchup standpoint too.
Sure.
Like look at the Cleveland Browns. They're not they're
Mm-hmm.
not a top five team in the NFL, but they beat
Mm-hmm.
a top five in the NFL because they matched up well against them on
Sure.
defense. All right, and then you go and look at what the Cleveland Browns did against the Colts, and whoever had the over in that game is laughing because I don't know too many people who were betting the over in that one.
No. And then, of course, you had the Dolphins last night, in Philly. Philly was wearing the Kelly Greens of the old school Philadelphia Eagles, and it was a wild, wild game. And what I don't understand, and it's interesting, the way that the offense that they run, that the Dolphins run, is in between the numbers. For those of you who are that's foreign to you, what the simply in between the numbers means that the majority of what they do is they throw the ball to the wide receivers in or backs in, the numbers are obviously the numbers you see on the field, okay? In between the numbers means they're throwing inside as opposed to outside, which would be outside the numbers, which would be close to the sidelines. And usually that's reserved for the deep passes. You don't see a lot of deep passes in the middle of the field. Anyway, the reason they do that is they want to get the athletes they have, which is the little track team that they like to have out there. If they can get the ball, to the guys in space, then a 5 yard pass can turn into a 45-yard run. So that's what they're trying to do. They literally stopped that in toward the end of the third quarter, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but that was interesting. Also, Vic Fangio, who is the D coordinator for Philadelphia, has been a coach in the NFL for 44 years. That's more time as a coach than the two guys who are the head coaches of the team have been alive. So that just gives you an idea of what Vic was doing. But I don't know that Tua was having a lot of trouble because they were not protecting him well last night.
Yeah, definitely. This game went exactly how I thought it was going to go. You know, the
Hmm.
Eagles' game plan was pretty apparent. Take what the Dolphins' defense gives them, put
Hmm.
together long drives, and keep the ball away from Tua. And that's
Right.
exactly what we saw, especially near the end of the game. You know, the Dolphins
Hmm.
tried to make that little comeback, but then once the Eagles got on the board again, it was pretty much over from there because they were just as soon as they took that lead, forced the Dolphins out, then they just ran out the clock from there pretty much. And yeah,
Well, they converted one fourth and two, and one fourth and one. The
it's the
first one
tush
was,
push, Jim.
yeah, that's exactly what they did. And um, I was listening to the game on the radio, and Mike Golick was doing the color on it. And Mike obviously was a former professional front line, on the line. He was with the late Reggie White in Philadelphia. And he said, "Look, when you get into the scrum like that," he said, "you there's no way you can get low enough to stop that push from getting at least 1 yard." And he goes, "I could see where they might get two or three." He goes, "Because there's the key for a defensive lineman is to get lower than the offensive lineman, and if they're automatically in that smash type situation, you can't get low enough to stop it." So he said he says it's totally unstoppable.
Yeah, pretty much. You really got to know what you're doing on the defensive side to be able to stop that because it's pretty much a rugby play.
I was going to ask you because you played rugby.
Yeah.
How, I mean, from an opposing standpoint, how do you just can't push? I mean, you can push somebody. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, could you come up with a way to stop it? Is that, I mean, I don't see how you could. I mean, those are physical bodies, and you're gonna move somehow. I'm not gonna be able to stop you from moving.
Yeah, see, part of the reason why it works so well is because of how
Hmm?
good the offensive line is for the
Yeah, sure,
Eagles. But at the
that
same
helps.
time, yeah, at the same time, I definitely think you can stop it because, as you said, it's all about leverage and really it's a play of mathematics. That's
Hmm.
all it really is. It's about taking the right angles, it's about getting the
Hmm.
right leverage on the other
Right.
person, and then yeah, it kind of causes the whole pile to push just from the way that the Eagles start the play.
Hmm.
But I think that is an important thing. If the defensive line can get underneath, that is the
Hmm.
key to stopping it. But
Right.
at the same time, you can set up to stop it on the defensive side of the ball. I just think the problem with doing that is you really have to sell out on the tush push,
Hmm.
and you could leave yourself vulnerable. Now, obviously, when the Eagles do it, they pretty much sell out on the fact that they're going to
Right.
do it. But I think if more teams were to sell out on the tush push and try to
Hmm.
stop it, you might see the Eagles line up in a different way where maybe they dangle a guy out on the outside and
Hmm.
it could really open you up to getting burned if you're going to sell out to stop that 1 yard push and then not leave someone covered on the outside or something. So I think there's a way to stop it, but
Hmm.
there's also a way to counter stopping it.
Right. It's funny we talked about how the Steelers were going to have an advantage of home field at SoFi. And just prior to the game, I had read a Los Angeles Times post on Twitter where the LA Times beat writer for the Rams said that the ticket sales for the game was 68% of the tickets went to Steeler fans. So that the stadium was, they had terrible towels. They had the whole. It was an experience of the Steelers in SoFi Stadium. So the Rams were absolutely you know, they were absolutely not the home team in their own stadium. So there you go. We had talked about that one too. So anyway, um, And now tonight we have some fun stuff. The football game is a good one. The Niners, in Minnesota. But we also have a couple of baseball games. Which would you like to go first, the NFL or the baseball?
Yeah, well, I guess let's keep it on NFL since that's what we've been talking about. We'll
Okay.
talk about this 49ers Vikings game tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, this big bounce back spot really for the 49ers here. They're obviously they're going to be pissed off from that
Mhm.
loss to Cleveland.
Mhm.
The Vikings, I don't know. They didn't look great against the Bears last week,
Right.
and Kirk Cousins does have that lovely stat where he's 2-10 on Monday nights. So uh, definitely hasn't performed on the Monday night in the past, but this is an interesting matchup to me just because I think the 49ers match up very well on offense against the Vikings. Christian McCaffrey is supposed to play in this game, so that's going to
Mhm.
help out because the 49ers are going to be able to run the ball. And really, the way to attack the Vikings is the passing defense. And with McCaffrey in the game, I think that they're going to be able to find ways to run the ball the way Shanahan schemes, and that's going
Mhm.
to only open up the passing game on this terrible passing defense for the Vikings. That's giving
Yeah.
them close to 8 yards per attempt.
Well, you talked about matchups, and there's not a area where the 49ers do not match up better than the Vikings. I mean, that's problem for Minnesota. But I do think that tonight it's going to be a long evening for the Vikings because one of the good things is that if McCaffrey's back, they'll probably limit. They're probably not going to use him as much as normal, but they'll use him enough to get by. And I think that they're just going to play the 49ers game, which is, make the game shorter by running the ball, controlling the ball, keeping the ball, and then once their defense is on the field, they're going to give Kirk Cousins all the grief that he can handle, and probably more. So I don't think this is a trap game. I don't think this is a game that the 49ers are going to lose. I think they know that, as you said, they're pissed off from last week when they lost a game they didn't think they should have, and they're not going to let it happen again.
Yeah, and so the 49ers are a 7-point favorite in this one. The
Mm-hmm.
total is at 44 right now, but
Hmm.
I kind of lean to the over in this one. This one was actually
Yeah.
at like 43 last night, so it's
Mm-hmm.
gone up a bit, but I do like the over. The only thing that worries me is I definitely think the Vikings are going to struggle on this 49ers defense, but what makes me like the over is I think there's going to be some garbage time for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to play catch up, I would think, in this game. So I think the Vikings offense is good enough to put up points in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the 49ers offense will be very efficient just the way they're matched up against the Vikings. So yeah, I see this one going over.
I totally agree. Okay, Jerry, who's going to the World Series? I'm a Ranger fan, but I really have no idea. I'll tell you what. Uh, Max is pitching. Max Scherzer is on the hill tonight for the Rangers. I am a I'm an unadulterated fan of Max and would love to see it happen. Here's what I think's going to happen. And then I'll defer to my friend Mr. Amedeus afterwards. And that is, I think if they could get four, maybe five good innings out of Max, where they don't, where it's maybe one or two runs, I think they would be pleased at that point. And look, it's the game seven. All hands are on deck. I don't, I just think Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker are two. We've talked about this before. Two very good managers. Two managers who understand how to handle teams in playoffs. So I'm thinking Bruce and Max are hoping, get me four. If you can get me five, that's great. But get me through those first few innings, and then they're just gonna play matchup bullpen the rest of the way out because again, there's no sense saving anybody because you're just saving them for next season. So I do think that I'll say this: if Max can give the Rangers 4+ innings, hell, 3+ innings, um, that will be what it'll take for them to win. I think the Rangers could win if Max doesn't get them in trouble early like he did in his last outing. So I don't think he's on a pitch count. I have no idea what that situation is at that point. I haven't seen anything to lead me to that. But I'm going to say if he can give them 3+ innings of good pitching, vintage Max, if he can go there, then I think the Rangers can come out and win this game. If on the other hand Max can only give them a 1 or 2 innings, that's going to be you can't get down to this Houston team and expect to bounce back easily. So anyway, that's my theory of the case. If Max goes 3+, I think the Texas will win. If he doesn't, well then it's going to be Houston.
Yeah, I
And
think
I like Philadelphia on the other side, but we haven't got to that one yet. But go ahead.
yeah, I think we're gonna see the I think we're gonna see your favorite, Jim. No home teams winning here,
Right.
and I'm with you on the Scherzer thing. I think that it's gonna be all hands on deck tonight, and I think that's probably why he's starting here because
Right.
there's gonna be a good chance that he doesn't go deep into this game, especially if we see what happened to him last time, where he breezes through the first inning and starts to have some trouble in the second inning. I wouldn't even, 4 or 5 innings is a stretch. I think the Rangers can still win, even if he pitches only like 2 or 3, because I think they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be very quick to pull the trigger on him.
The hook. Yeah.
Yeah, if he's like loading 2 guys, no outs in the second inning or something like that, I think they'll pull him. And as you said, it's going to be all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
They got almost a full bullpen pretty much to work with for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, frankly, I like what I've seen from the Rangers, and they're obviously going to have a bit of momentum back from the 9-2 win in the
Mm-hmm.
last game. So
Yep. And it'll be fun to see. Look, Bochy and pitchers are that's his stock in trade. So I think that, look, I think Max is going to be geeked out, and I think that whatever he's going to give, you know, he's going to give you 100%. And of what, I don't know if he's giving 100%. Now, if he's not 100% back from his injury, that's pretty clear. So, but if Max can give you 3 vintage innings of Max Scherzer, then you got a shot. I remember, 2019 when the Nationals won the World Series. The seventh game, which was in Houston, was started off with, they had Patrick Corbin, and then it sounds like a jet is flying over. There you go.
yeah,
So
that
they had,
motorcycle actually.
it wasn't okay. Scherzer pitched the middle innings of that game. So he pitched, basically 4, 5, and 6 in that game. So it was wild. So I think Max understands it, what he's got to do. He is a hell of a competitor. As I said, I'm a big fan of Max's abilities. So I'm hoping that he can get you the number of innings they need. But Boshi, as Amadeus said, it's going to be a short hook. I mean, he's not gonna be talked out of taking pitchers out of the game. That's not Bruce's mo. He goes actually in the opposite direction. He's very good when he comes out to take the ball. I haven't seen a pitcher who has not just handed him the ball and say, "Here, Skipper, whatever you want." So Boshi and Baker tonight, the fabulous Baker boys there. It's going to be fun, and it should be fun to watch. Now we got Philadelphia, and there's there's a great bit on social media I saw today on Instagram, which there was a poster of Bryce Harper, and behind him, the caption behind him read, "3 hours of hell, welcome to the bank." And so I think we know just what's going to happen in Philly today at 5 o'clock is all hell's going to break loose on, at the end of the street down there. It's going to be a fun night down at the bank. The Eagles won last night across the street. Now on the other side of the street, it'll be fun to see what goes on at the bank. But it that fan base, it's like I said, they're gonna make it loud and they're gonna make it tough. So we'll see. But I do like Philadelphia tonight.
Yeah, I don't even think we really need to talk about that series. The Diamondbacks really needed to win that fifth game at home
Yeah,
to have a chance here. This is over, and how convenient that this game that the Phillies can close out the series at home on the same night that the other series is in Game 7. And as you said, Jim, the networks are fine with Texas or Houston in it,
right.
all right, but we can't have the Diamondbacks in there. So I think we know it's going to be a pretty straightforward night tonight. I think we know what's happening.
The umpires have got their marching orders.
Got that postage stamp sized
Right, strike
strike zone.
zone. It's like, okay, here we go. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun, and yeah, the the bank will be the bank will definitely be hopping tonight on Broad Street. So, for those of you heading to Philly to watch the game tonight, uh, check out the cheesesteaks and get ready for some fun on Broad Street because it's going to be an enjoyable game. I hope that Philly fans realize that winning the National League championship does not constitute the World Series yet. So no horseplay out there tonight in the neighborhoods, boys. Just enjoy yourself and you know wait till you win the World Series to celebrate because a little premature celebration there is not going to help you. So there you go. Public service announcement to Philadelphia Phillies fans.
Yeah, enjoy,
So
enjoy your cheesesteaks unless you're Diamondbacks fans. I remember there was that story last year where the Houston Astros tried to get catering done and the restaurant refused to serve them because they were the Houston Astros. So, Diamondbacks, pack your lunches from Arizona. You're not eating tonight.
or just don't tell them eat at the hotel. But Philly fans are tough. There's they definitely they're definitely getting psyched out. So there you go. And by the way, later this week marks the starting of the of the NBA regular season. So keep a lookout, put a pin in that. Starts tomorrow night and then on Thursday. So something to keep an eye on
Oh,
as
yeah.
we get ready down the line. So what was the weekend in soccer was pretty exciting.
Yeah, so we had the big game you mentioned about Man City Brighton, so that
Right.
that lived up to expectations. I mean, kind of. Man
Depends on your
City.
expectations.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right, man? Like it went the way I thought it was going to go. Man City took a quick 2-0 lead in the first 30 minutes and then kind of just sat on it until Brighton scored a late goal to try and mount the comeback, but still lose 2-1. The Chelsea match, the Chelsea Arsenal one, that one was actually at 12:30, so you could have watched both, and that was a really good one as well. Chelsea took an early 1-0 lead, and then they extended that to 2-0, and then Arsenal clawed their way back to tie 2-2. But this Chelsea team, they're starting to put balls in the net, starting to look like the team I picked to win the Premier League. I still think that bet is shot, but they could get into the top four. I wouldn't count them out. A team with only one match a week to focus on, no outside competitions or distractions. I think they can get their they can get their stuff together.
Well, I mean, they they're a team that I think we all have expectations for, but I agree with you. I think that you were on them early, and you said you thought that this would be a great way to make it work, and I think you're right. I think this is you know they've got the type of team that's balanced, and it's not just one or two guys. It's a full team, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, they were an absolute disaster last year, but in
Mm-hmm.
the summer transfer window, is very clearly they picked a direction and they sold off pretty much half the team. Half the players that they bought last year are
Mm-hmm.
gone. But yeah, they picked their core group of players that they want to build and work with. And I think it's a very solid core group of players. That's why I was high on them coming into the
Mm-hmm.
season. Obviously, it hasn't panned out that way yet, but as by the looks of it, it looks like they just needed some time with the direction in mind to get on the roll, and now you're starting to see them get on the roll. So Chelsea's a team, yeah, Chelsea's a team I'd watch out for in the Premier League because they definitely have the potential to be dangerous this year, and we're not even at the winter transfer window yet.
Right. So, okay, Chelsea being at the top of your pyramid there, um, any dark horse candidates?
Well, Chelsea would have been the dark horse,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, one I wasn't sure about. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really include them in my futures article specifically because I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it before Kane had signed his thing with Bayern Munich.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I didn't really include them because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But little did I know it wasn't going to matter because this coach they got, Postacoglu, he knows what he's doing. He's
Mm-hmm.
got this team. We're talking about directions with Chelsea. He's got Tottenham on a very good path right now, and
Mm-hmm.
they know exactly what they're doing. They're another team like Chelsea where they missed out on European competition
Mm-hmm.
last year. So not only are they pissed off with the fact that they weren't, top six team in the Premier League, they don't have the extra competitions or distractions. They don't got to play they don't got to play twice a week, every 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing once a week. They're solely focused. They even got kicked out of the EFL Cup as
Ouch.
well in the first round because again, they were playing so well in the league to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
Postacoglu, and I don't blame him at all for this. He needed to see what he had in bench depth, so he started. He changed 9 of the 11 starters from
Mm-hmm.
the weekend in that match, and they ended up losing to I think it was Fulham. They tied 1-1 and lost in the penalties. But I say that's better for them because now they're focused. They're at if they win today, actually they play at 3 o'clock, and if they win today, they have a two
Mm-hmm.
point lead at the top of the table over
Wow.
Arsenal and Man City. So this is what I mean. This is Tottenham's a very dangerous team this year, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they're another one. The fact that the fact that they play once a week, they definitely have
Mm-hmm.
a chance to win the title this year. I think they're going to be a very dangerous team.
So, what about we saw Brighton in that game against Chelsea? They were kind of one of our favorites last year, not to win anything, but to just be a very improved, very talented team and give everybody grief. But much was said that in the offseason they were going to lose some of their key players and probably not be as competitive. Do you see that's happening, or do you see Brighton, sticking in the middle of the pack like they did last year?
No, I definitely see. They'll still be a good team. They have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
good pieces, but
Right.
they won't be as good as they were last year. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone was freaking out because their first five matches of the league, they were beating teams 3-1, 4-1, and just
Right.
destroying teams. But now you're starting to see, they lost 2-1 to Man City.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is getting exposed by the better teams in the league because they don't have a great defense, and they lost their two biggest midfielders in McAllister and Caicedo.
Mm-hmm.
So this Brighton team, I have a very good comparison for you. They're the Miami Dolphins of the Premier League. They're
Mm-hmm.
very good at kicking the crap out of the bad teams in the league, but when
Right.
they go up against a team that's better than them, they get exposed.
There you go. So there you go. How about the other leagues during the past weekend? Do you see anything in some of the other European leagues that piqued your interest?
A lot of the teams came out and did what I thought they were going to do because we
Mm-hmm.
have Champions League this week, so it's always tough. Obviously, we're coming out of an international break, so teams are rested, but some teams do look ahead if they play on the Tuesday in Champions League. So I was on Inter Milan on the weekend. They came out and destroyed as I thought they would, and I stayed off my team, but I thought they were going to lose to Juventus, and I think they actually did end up losing, or at least. Drew, I should actually check on that one. Yeah, they lost 1-0 to Juventus. So Real Madrid drew, which was a bit of a surprise to me, but they've been playing very lazy in La Liga, just in the sense where they're dominating possession, but they're not scoring goals. And then the games they've been winning, if you actually look at like their last, like five of their last six wins in La Liga have all been late goals coming in stoppage time or even
Hmm.
in the last 10 minutes of the game, and it's not a winning formula right now. They have a ton of talent on their team, and I don't know if they're just bored with their league matches, which they tend to do because they come out, they win like the first nine straight matches every season of all competitions, and then they start to, I don't know, get bored, and you see this laziness from them. So they might be a team to watch this week in Champions League. I'm not sure if they play on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, but they'll be a team to watch.
What about Spurs? I've heard some pretty good intel that they seem to be, headed in the right direction.
Yeah, well, definitely Tottenham is one of the teams I think can win the Premier League right now the way
Mhm.
they're playing. But it'll be interesting to see how they continue on. Right, I think Postacoglu has that team headed in the right direction for sure. They've shown they don't need Kane, and I think that the biggest thing that Postacoglu has changed on that team is the confidence of Son, because Son was a player last year where he couldn't score a goal if his life depended on it. He was hitting every post and close miss that you could imagine. And this year, it's been the complete opposite. It's like a switch is flipped inside him, and every time he's in scoring position, he's just burying it in the back of the net. So I think the turnaround of Son is speaks volumes of the job Postecoglou is doing at Tottenham.
There you go. Well, my buddy Bill Bender at Sporting News has put together and he does this about this time of the year. Basically, he does the bowls season. So he's got every bowl, and all you have to do, folks, if you want to read it, is sportingnews.com, and it's on the front page of sportingnews.com. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to take a look at some of these bowl games that we are looking forward to here, and we've got if we just pick up, excuse me, try to get this right. Pick up the games on the late December, early January games. The Alamo Bowl. They got Oklahoma State, Oregon State. Interesting. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl played in Jacksonville. Is Tennessee, Minnesota. That's on December 29th. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Now that's in El Paso. I'm sorry, it's a little tough to say that with a straight
Since
face.
since
Uh,
when is the Sun Bowl the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl?
about since last year, actually, I think with this they got him. USC, North Carolina. So USC comes all the way over to the Sun
North
Bowl.
Carolina's only got one loss. Like they could still be a conference champion.
They could be. They could be. SC going to El Paso. In fairness, that's a lovely place. Great bowl. They really treat the people right there. I did that game a couple of times for CBS. It's you know it's not a warm bowl. It's not warm. It's one of those things where it's a bowl game where you're gonna have to dress up and bring your coats because that's a trip. The Liberty Bowl, which is on December 29th, Texas A&M and Kansas State. Interesting. The Music City Bowl in Nashville on the 30th of December. Florida Gators and the Maryland Terrapins. That's definitely an interesting matchup if
Is that
Bender's
an
right.
acceptable bowl for you, Jim, as the resident Gator fan?
Uh, I gotta say, look, if they made the Music City Bowl, fine. I'll tell you this. In past years, and I'm not going to say it's going to be this year. In past years, if they made the Music City Bowl, that would be an automatic firing of the coach. But I think Napier's got another year before they start beating down the door and wanting more from him. So we'll see.
To be fair to him, I don't think me and you even had Florida as a bowl team this year. We had him like right
No,
in the
we
6, maybe
yeah
7 win
we
range.
we were not overly on his side. Although I got to say, Graham Mertz has started to play quarterback better. In fairness to him,
His
uh,
completion percentage is surprising me. I will
it
say
is,
that. I
yeah,
got to give him some respect. He's
yeah,
played better than I've given him credit for.
right. Yeah, well, that's interesting. The Barstool Arizona Bowl. That game is actually played at the at Arizona State's Sun Devil Stadium. Northern,
Barstool's getting their hands on the bowl games now.
yeah, there you go. Northern Illinois and Colorado State. Okay, January 1st. The re the oh man, what is it? The Real Quest Bowl. Ole Miss and Duke. That's an interesting matchup.
See, that's another one where like really both of those teams are alive. Maybe not so
Right.
much Ole Miss because Alabama has the tiebreaker on them. But Duke, I mean, if Duke's only loss is to Florida State, they could very well end up seeing Florida State again in the conference championship.
They could. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Now, I'm going to get a little inside here. Last year, I work with the folks at Sports Talk Florida, and last year, the Citrus Bowl, which is usually has the second or third number ACC team, but more recently the SEC made a deal with them, so now it's the SEC and the Big Ten, and they had this God's honest truth. Michelle Sabin, who covered the game for us, Michelle got there early. They literally had, for every person that came into the stadium, a large bag of Cheez-Its. And I've never seen so many orange hands in my life as they all went through the door. And evidently, those were not things you tossed on the field. Those were things that people consumed. They have
What is Cheez It doing, Jim, though? Like, come on. We need Tropicana sponsoring the Citrus Bowl or something,
it
like hand
used to
out
be
orange juice to
it
everybody.
used to be the the original bowl was called the Tangerine Bowl. Okay, it then when the Florida Citrus Commission underwrote the bowl, it became the Citrus Bowl, and then as things evolved and sponsors became a thing, and we'll have Jack Heelig here to speak about that. These bowls, all of them are controlled by ESPN with the exception of like four. Okay, that's it. Everything else. So what happens is they go out, ESPN goes out and finds a sponsor for the bowls. And evidently, in this case, the folks at Cheez It decided that the Citrus Bowl was where they would go. I'm not sure that Cheez Its and orange juice go well together, but hey, who am I to say?
Same color, I guess.
I guess. Uh, this is a bowl, the Citrus Bowl, as I said. You also had an SEC component. It was like the number 2 SEC team. The number 1 SEC team got to go to the Sugar Bowl. The number 2 went to the Citrus Bowl. And when Spurrier was there and in his heyday at Florida, and Phil Fulmer was at Tennessee, he used to jokingly say at media day that he knew that Tennessee fans would have the opportunity to book passage to Orlando for the Citrus Bowl because you can't spell citrus without U and T involved in it. So that was his little dig at Tennessee. So it's Wisconsin and Missouri. I can guarantee you that there won't be a lot of people. Well, there'll be a lot of people from Wisconsin probably there, but not so much from Missouri. Okay,
What? That's another one. The disrespect.
yeah,
Missouri is what 7-1 now. They
they
could beat Georgia
they could.
and go to the SEC champion. Just imagine that. Missouri over Georgia in the SEC champion. Okay, then
Yeah,
shove Georgia in the Citrus Bowl and see where we're at.
that would make it very interesting. Okay, now here's the projected Billy's projected New Year's Six team. So these are the games which are not the ones that would be the championship group, but they would be the right outside of the championship group. And so we got the Cotton Bowl, which of course is played at Jerry's World in December 29th. That game will be Oklahoma, Alabama. Now, I don't believe Alabama deserves that bowl, but it's quite possible they'll get it anyway. And Oklahoma, Alabama, in past years would be a really cool thing. This year, I think is kind of a disrespect to Oklahoma. But so anyway, Oklahoma, Alabama, two of the blue bloods of college football would get together. That probably would nail down a good audience. The Peach Bowl in Atlanta on the 30th of December. LSU and Ohio State. So they don't have Ohio State. Billy doesn't have Ohio State in the in the Final Four. So there's an interesting thing.
Smart man.
There you go. The Capital One Orange Bowl down in Miami has Penn State, and here's a surprise. Okay, Louisville. That's a definitely interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's where we get to the Bills putting an interesting spin on this one. We know that there's a group of 5 team, okay, not the Power 5 conference, but the group of 5 conference. Their top team gets a bowl game, and this year it's the Fiesta Bowl, okay? In past years, last year it was the Cotton Bowl. If people may remember that Tulane beat USC in that game. This year it is the Fiesta Bowl, and Bill has the Air Force. That's right, the Air Force Academy against Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. So there you go on that one. That would be a very interesting, matchup. I guess he's basically saying that that it ain't gonna happen. Now I'm talking about for Tulane in a return. Rose Bowl game, which is a national semifinal this year. And actually, this would be, ironically, would be a Big Ten versus Pac-12 team. And Rose Bowl this year, which is a national semifinal, he's got Michigan and Washington.
Yep.
Now, I'd buy off on that. Sorry, there's a video popped up. Not sure how or where, but sorry, it's a Hyundai commercial. They're not sponsoring us. Okay, stop it. In the Sugar Bowl, which is the other, Final Four bowl game, he's got Georgia and Florida State. So, Michigan, Washington, that would be a good game. And Georgia and Florida State, could be. So there you go. Washington faces Stanford this week, by the way, before they have a 3-game stretch where they're going to play SC, Utah, and Oregon State. But, that's the situation as it now stands. Michigan really doesn't have too much of a tough schedule other than the game, of course, with Ohio State. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Michigan will only play maybe 2 ranked teams when all is said and done. When the season is over, they will have played 2 ranked teams. So, factor that in as you will. But yeah, I would think Michigan and Ohio State would be an interesting. I'm sorry, Michigan and Washington would be an interesting pairing in a final. Georgia, Florida State. I'm given what we just were talking about, that's probably the iffiest of those of the finals. He's got Georgia, Michigan in the championship game.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
not
know
so
about
sure
that.
about that, but okay. Georgia has a bye week this week. Then they play Florida in. You know, we'll see how that goes. Florida State needs to avoid the upset bug. They play Pitt this week. Then they basically don't have a tough game until the championship game at this point. So there they go. So little, way ahead of time, but it's always kind of fun just to look at it and see what goes on. But yeah, I think they don't. There's not a lot of. I mean, uh, of that group, I honestly think that another loss or a loss, I should say. I think that if somewhere along the way Washington were to stub their toe or lose in the Pac-12 championship game, I can easily see them screwing them out of an opportunity to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, it'll just be
Because
you got to watch.
a one loss. I mean, what do you think? Okay, Michigan and Ohio State go into that game, and let's just say for the sake of argument, Michigan. Let's say Michigan loses it to Ohio State, or Ohio State loses to Michigan. Okay, but it's a close game. Then in the championship game, the Pac-12 championship game, let's say it's a rematch of Oregon and Washington, and Oregon wins this time. I can see them just saying, okay, well, we'll take Ohio State and Michigan, and Washington's the odd team. Washington or Oregon's the odd team out. That's
Yeah,
assuming. That's assuming that Florida State, makes its way through the ACC, and Georgia makes its way through the SEC.
yeah, I think they'll be looking for any excuse they can to keep Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, all those in there. Any excuse they can get to take another team out. Oh, you both have one loss. We'll take Ohio State.
Right. Especially if it's a close game. If it's a close game, they'll figure out a way to give the shaft to the teams. I just don't have any real respect that they're going to give the gang an opportunity with that. I wish I could say yes, but history has proven to me that that's not really the case. They don't buy in. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But right now, I think that they've and if you go ratings wise, okay, every year the top rated college football game in the U.S. is Ohio State, Michigan, okay, consistently. Georgia with the SEC has a good rating. Florida State, like them, hate them, whatever, they always seem to rate out. The problem with why was Washington and Oregon have a problem is only 22% of the country lives west of you know, in what we call the Mountain West, which is Denver and Utah and that area out there. So, in Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, they're all in big markets, but it's just, again, 22% of the country means that a lot of the country just doesn't know them, and there's a very East Coast bias when it comes to this. And you could sneak an SC into there, but they're not going to be they're going to be a 3 or 4 loss team by the time that gets out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Georgia, ESPN would be, very pleased with all that. So, and they only have 2 more years before that contract is done, and there'll be a whole different setup of how that works. And we have that 12-team playoff situation, which will make things a little easier.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Can't come fast enough.
no, no, it cannot. And they're going to get a gazillion dollars for that new contract. But I think what you're going to see from a contract standpoint is we'll see a kind of like an NFL model where NBC will get it 1 year, ABC will get it 1 year, ABC, ESPN will get it 1 year, CBS gets it for 1 year, Fox gets it for 1 year. I think that's the kind of stuff that you'll see, and you'll also see the streaming services getting some of the early playoff games. So I think that's where things are going to go, because they're going to want a lot of money, and not one network. They don't want one network doing it anymore. So I think you're going to see a lot of partners in that package that college football puts out there. So we'll see. Anyway, all right, my friend, we have got that time of the show where you got to tell people where to get in touch with you, which is down in the box down there, by the way.
Yeah, you can find my premium plays at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. I have some football up for the NFL tonight, and I'll have lots of football and NBA and soccer for the week. There's going to be tons to bet on.
Something to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. So by all means, hop down there and make a wager with my man here. He will be happy to come on over and show us your winning ticket whenever you get it. We would greatly appreciate it, okay? All right, everybody, have a great day. It's been fun. We thank Amedeus as always, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, take care.